Welcome to this explainer. If you think modern politics is packed with drama, just wait until you hear about the Han Dynasty. Today, we are diving deep into the ancient records of the legendary historian Sima Qian. We're going to unpack a truly thrilling study of ultimate power, incredibly petty drama, and some absolutely catastrophic leadership failures. Let's just dive right in.
All right, starting with Section 1, Royal Origins and Petty Grudges.
So, to really wrap our heads around the monumental fall of these massive empires, specifically the kingdoms of Chu and Zhao, we first have to look at their deeply flawed yet highly relatable origins. Take, for example, the official royal title, the Marquis of Scraped Soup. I mean, what a name, right? Long before Emperor Gaozu actually founded the Han Dynasty, he was basically just a guy with a lot of hungry friends, and they used to constantly crash at his older brother's house for free meals. Well, his sister-in-law got so incredibly annoyed by this freeloading that one day when Gaozu and his entourage showed up, she loudly scraped the bottom of an empty soup pot, pretending the food was completely gone. His friends left, totally embarrassed. But later, Gaozu checked the pot himself and found out there was actually plenty of soup left over. And let me tell you, emperors absolutely hold grudges. Years later, when Gaozu became the supreme ruler of the land and was handing out royal titles and vast territories to his family members, he deliberately skipped over that specific sister-in-law's son. He literally just left his own nephew out in the cold. It was only after his own father pleaded with him that the emperor finally caved. But out of pure, unadulterated spite, he officially named his nephew the Marquis of Scraped Soup. So right from the very jump, the power dynamics of this dynasty were dictated not just by grand strategy, but by blatant nepotism and deeply personal, emotional grievances. So looking at this timeline, we follow that exact lineage. We start at the founding era, with Emperor Gaozu and his brothers establishing the Han Dynasty's iron grip on power. Moving down to the second generation, we see the establishment of the royal lines of Chu under King Zhao and Zhao under King Yu, which finally brings us to our main subjects for today, the rebellious generation. That's King Wu of Chu and King Sui of Zhao. Now, these two men inherited massive wealth, vast armies, and enormous privilege, but they also inherited that exact same volatile mix of royal entitlement and emotional reactivity that we just saw with the soup pot. Which brings us to Section 2, the Seeds of Rebellion, a threatened legacy. Now, this right here is the exact moment these two powerful kings felt their immense inherited power being truly threatened. Under the new Emperor Jing, both kings faced severe territorial cuts, but honestly, for entirely different reasons. King Wu of Chu was stripped of the Donghai commandery strictly as a punishment for committing illicit acts while he was officially supposed to be mourning Empress Bo. Meanwhile, King Sui of Zhao lost his Changshan commandery purely due to a new imperial policy. The emperor's advisors had designed it specifically to weaken regional lords. But you know what? Whether it was a justified punishment for bad behavior or just a calculated political maneuver, it really didn't matter to them. Both kings felt personally slighted and deeply, deeply disrespected by their emperor. And that feeling of disrespect, it sparked a massive powder keg. These territorial cuts pushed King Wu of Chu and King Sui of Zhao completely over the edge. Rather than just accept the emperor's ruling and take the hit, they chose violence. They joined forces with the King of Wu and launched a massive, empire-shaking revolt that history remembers as the Rebellion of the Seven States. They quite literally decided to wage war against their own emperor just to protect their pride and their land. All right, moving right into Section 3, silencing the wise advisors. A tragic mistake. Now, here is the fatal turning point of our whole story. It's the moment both kings, riding completely high on arrogance, make the exact same tragic mistake. Look, when you plan a massive rebellion, your smartest advisors are going to have something to say about it. And they definitely did. In Chu, Chancellor Zhang Shang and tutor Zhao Yiwu desperately pleaded with King Wu not to rebel. Over in Zhao, Chancellor Jiande and clerk Wang Han did the exact same thing with King Sui. So, how did our brilliant royal kings respond to this sound, loyal advice? Well, King Wu of Chu had his advisors executed. And King Sui of Zhao went even further. He had his loyal chancellor and clerk burned alive. No way around it. They violently murdered their own wise men simply for begging them not to make a catastrophic mistake. The true cost of silencing dissent is, well, it's absolute. By executing these wise men, the kings completely blinded themselves with hubris. In a flash, they lost their absolute best strategic guidance right before launching a massive, high-stakes war. They alienated any remaining loyalists who might have actually helped them, basically creating a giant echo chamber of yes men. By killing the voices of reason, they quite literally sealed their own doom before the first sword was even swung. Let's look at Section 4, the spectacular fall, where reality catches up. Because honestly, once you get rid of the only people brave enough to tell you the truth, reality has a very, very harsh way of catching up to you. Without wise counsel, a poorly planned rebellion falls apart instantly. Step 1, their supply lines were severed by the imperial forces and their supposedly powerful allies quickly retreated the second things got tough. Step 2, their armies were backed into a corner and their mighty cities were besieged, facing absolute physical destruction. And finally, Step 3, total crushing defeat, culminating in the tragic suicides of the kings themselves. It is a textbook example of a complete and utter tactical collapse. And the specifics of how this went down are incredibly humiliating. Take the kingdom of Chu, for instance. The Han general Zhao Yifu simply cut off their grain routes. That's it. The mighty Chu army, which had marched out with so much pride, literally starved to death on the battlefield. Meanwhile, the kingdom of Zhao tried to ally with the Xiongnu from the north to save their skin, but the Xiongnu took one look, saw the writing on the wall, and totally backed out. Zhao held out in their capital of Handan for 7 grueling months. Finally, the Han general Luan Bu broke the siege by redirecting a river and literally flooding the entire city. So, one army starved, and the other was completely washed away. So, what's the ultimate price of all this hubris? Facing total humiliation and the absolute destruction of their forces, both King Wu of Chu and King Sui of Zhao committed suicide. But the punishment didn't just stop with them. The Han Emperor completely abolished their kingdoms. Their royal lines, stretching all the way back to the founding of the dynasty we looked at earlier, were entirely erased from the map. A total wipeout. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the timeless leadership lesson, featuring Sima Qian's analysis. You see, history isn't just about memorizing dates and battles. It's a study of human nature. Sima Qian offers this brilliant, enduring analysis of these exact events, outlining what we can call a law of ruin. He theorized that a leader's downfall doesn't actually begin on the battlefield. Not at all. It begins the exact moment they start valuing agreeable yes men over uncomfortable truths. When a state, a business, or any organization for that matter is on the brink of collapse, the wise, critical thinkers are either executed or forced into hiding, and the corrupt, flattering officials are elevated to power. The kings of Chu and Zhao didn't lose because they were weak militarily. They lost because they completely eradicated wisdom from their inner circle. And that leads us straight to this incredibly profound quote directly from the source text. Safety and danger depend on the commands issued, survival and ruin depend on the men employed. Sima Qian just brilliantly summarizes the fatal error of these kings here. You can issue all the bold, aggressive commands you want, but if you don't surround yourself with honest, capable people, and especially those who dare to disagree with you, you are mathematically guaranteeing your own ruin. So, I want to leave you with this final, honestly pretty provocative thought. Think about your own life, your own projects, your own style of leadership. When you are about to make a critical mistake, maybe blinded by your own emotions or pride, who will be brave enough to warn you? Do you have people in your life who can look you in the eye and tell you you're wrong? And more importantly, will you actually listen to them, or will you mentally burn them at the stake like the kings of ancient China? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and above all, keep listening to the wise voice.